The moment the gun clicked, she was pressing her hands against Elijah's chest, trying to stop the bleeding, when the gun clicked again. Empty. The shooter's eyes were wild, filled with something darker than anger, something close to despair. Carmen froze. In that split second, her brain told her, this is how it ends. Her fingers were soaked in Elijah's blood, knees throbbing from kneeling on shattered glass. She held her breath, but the shooter didn't fire. He stared at the gun, confused. Then, with the sound of distant sirens rising through the shattered windows of Jefferson High, he turned and bolted down the corridor, disappearing around the corner. His shoes squeaked over the blood-stained linoleum. Carmen didn't chase him. She stayed exactly where she was, one hand still on Elijah's chest, the other gripping the sleeve of his jacket. He was still breathing, but barely, short, shallow. Gasps, like he was drowning in air. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Don't you dare die, Elijah. You promised we'd graduate together. You don't get to break that promise." His eyes fluttered, unfocused, but he blinked once. Then came the chaos. Police stormed the halls. Teachers sobbed while pulling students out of hiding. Stretchers rolled past. Carmen didn't even hear her own name being shouted. She just sat there, cradling Elijah, refusing to let him go, and that's the moment the media captured. A 17-year-old black girl, covered in blood, holding on to someone else's life. The nation would call her a hero. But to Carmen, that word would never feel quite right. The hospital was cold, sterile, the kind of cold that got into your bones. No matter how many blankets they gave you, Carmen sat in the waiting room, still wearing Elijah's blood-soaked hoodie over her own clothes. Her fingers trembled when she tried to hold the paper cup of water someone had handed her. She hadn't spoken to her mother since arriving. Her mom was pacing, frantically updating family members and praying under her breath. The word hero echoed in Carmen's ears every time a nurse looked at her. You did the right thing. You saved his life. Without you, he wouldn't have made it this far. And yet, she didn't feel saved herself. She felt cracked. 4 days passed. Elijah survived surgery, but he hadn't woken up. Carmen hadn't gone back to school. Her name was all over the news, interviews, features, even a candlelight vigil on the school lawn. Strangers sent cards. One woman offered to pay for Carmen's future college tuition. And still, Elijah didn't wake up. It was the 5th morning, when the first note arrived. No name, just her name on the envelope. Inside, in all caps, "You should have let him die. He deserved it." Carmen stared at the message for a long time, the paper crumpling in her grip. She looked out the window. Across the street was just a quiet suburban neighborhood. Lawns trimmed, cars parked, nothing out of place. But someone had put that note in her mailbox, and they knew where she lived. She didn't tell her mum, didn't tell the police. Instead, she burned the note over the kitchen sink, but she couldn't burn the feeling it left in her chest. Later that afternoon, she finally got the call she'd been praying for. "Elijah's awake," the nurse said. "He's asking for you." Carmen dropped everything. No hesitation. She found him in the ICU, pale and hooked up to tubes, but alive. His eyelids fluttered when she entered. "You look like hell," he croaked, and she let out a wet laugh. "You scared the hell out of me," she whispered, sitting beside him. "You better not do that again." He lifted a weak hand, and she took it, threading their fingers together. For the first time since that horrible day, she let herself cry in front of someone, and just for a moment things felt okay. But 2 hours later, as she opened her locker back at school to grab the homework she hadn't looked at in days, she found a new note waiting for her. This time, it included a photo. It was a printed image of her and Elijah kissing behind the school gym. 3 weeks ago, a secret blurry photo taken from the bushes. "You ruined everything." Her knees buckled. Who was taking these photos? Who knew about them? She reported the note to the school counselor, who brought in the police. But after 2 days, they dismissed it as a prank. Sick kids pull stuff like this, the officer said. Try to shake you up, don't worry. We'll talk to the principal about locker security. But Carmen wasn't shaken. She was terrified. Whoever this was, they didn't just know her name. They knew her secrets. 1 week later, Carmen woke up to breaking news on TV. The shooter, Jason Maddox, had died by suicide in custody. Her heart dropped, not from sympathy, but from confusion. That wasn't justice. That was escape. She stared at the screen, barely breathing. The news anchor said Jason had left a letter, but the police weren't releasing the full contents to the public. Carmen felt sick. There was something off, something unfinished, and then she remembered something strange. That boy at the hospital, the one who sat across from her in the waiting room the day Elijah was in surgery. He hadn't said a word, just watched her, still, cold, something in his eyes that reminded her of Jason. Could he have been Jason's brother? She searched online for Jason Maddox's family, and there he was. Ryan Maddox, 19, Jason's older brother. No arrests, no statements, no photos in the news since the shooting. But Carmen knew he had been there, watching her, and the next morning her window screen had been sliced open from the outside. She started looking over her shoulder everywhere she went. To school, to the store, even to the hospital. The only place she felt safe was in Elijah's room. I think someone's following me, she told him quietly one evening. I keep getting notes, and someone took a picture of us before all of this. He blinked slowly. You think it's his family? I don't know, but I think he didn't act alone. Elijah nodded weakly. I always felt something off about Jason. He wasn't just angry, he was trained. He moved like he'd been planning that day for months. That gave Carmen chills. Jason had known exactly where to find them. He hadn't just snapped. He had a plan, and if he had help, then maybe he hadn't acted alone. 2 days later, Carmen received a package on her doorstep. No return address. Inside was a USB stick. She took it to her bedroom, shut the door, and plugged it into her laptop. There was one video file. She clicked play. It was a video of Elijah. He was sitting at the edge of a bench looking nervous. It was taken from a distance, like from a phone hidden across the park. He was looking over his shoulder constantly. Then Jason appeared in the frame, sat down beside him. They talked for a while, but the audio was low. Then something happened that made Carmen's blood freeze. Jason handed Elijah a gun. The video ended. Carmen covered her mouth, shaking. She played it again and again, trying to understand. Why would Elijah take a gun from Jason? When did this happen? And most of all, what was Elijah hiding from her? She didn't go to the hospital that night. She didn't answer Elijah's calls. She didn't sleep. The next morning, she found something worse. Elijah's hospital bed was empty. The nurses said he had checked out, but there was no paperwork. No discharge form, no doctor approval. He was just gone. And taped to Carmen's locker was the final note of part 1. He's gone now. Next is you. Secrets Elijah never told. The hospital said Elijah checked himself out. But Carmen knew that was a lie. There's no way someone barely walking without help just walked out of an ICU unnoticed. And definitely not someone who'd been shot. 3 times someone took him or he ran. But why? Carmen sat on her bed, knees to her chest, staring at the printed note that had been taped to her locker hours earlier. He's gone now. Next is you. It was scrawled in that same jagged handwriting. Bold, angry letters in permanent black marker. Her hands trembled, but not from fear anymore. This wasn't just about threats. This was a game, and whoever was playing knew her every move. She waited until her mum went to sleep, then snuck out the back door with the hoodie Elijah left at her house before the shooting. She needed answers. She needed to know why he took that gun from Jason and what he wasn't telling her. Elijah's dad answered the door, his eyes bloodshot, his expression a mix of exhaustion and confusion. He's not here, he said flatly. I thought he was still at the hospital. He left, or someone took him, Carmen said, and I need to know if he ever talked to Jason before the shooting. Mr. Rivers stepped aside and let her in. The house smelled like antiseptic and stale coffee. Framed pictures lined the hallway, Elijah's basketball photos, one of him at a science fair. Normal kid stuff. Innocent. Carmen didn't know what she expected to find. Maybe a clue, maybe a confession. But what she found was in Elijah's room, buried at the back of his closet inside a cardboard box labeled trash. She opened it and froze. There were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Jason Maddox, each envelope dated over the course of the last year. Some typed, some handwritten, some pages torn in half. Carmen sat on the floor and started reading. Dear Jason, you're the only one who understands what it feels like to be invisible at this school. I don't want to do anything crazy, but sometimes I wonder if anything will ever change. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. Elijah, Jason, I don't agree with you. Hurting people isn't going to fix what's broken. But I get why you feel that way. Just don't do anything you can't take back. Jason, stop. You said it was just talk. You said you weren't serious. I didn't sign up for this. If you go through with it, I'm not covering for you. Elijah Carmen's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just casual venting. This was a year-long correspondence. Jason had been planning the shooting far longer than anyone knew. And Elijah had known about it, maybe even helped him, but changed his mind too late. Carmen stuffed the letters into her backpack and left the house before Mr. Rivers returned from the kitchen. She didn't sleep that night. She read every page, every line. Elijah had tried to stop him, over and over, but he hadn't told the police. He hadn't told her. Why? Because he was scared, or because there was more to this than he ever admitted? The next morning, Carmen was called to the principal's office. There were 2 detectives waiting for her, Carmen Lewis, and said, flipping open a notepad, "We need to ask you some questions about Elijah Rivers. He's missing, and based on a tip we received this morning, we think you might know where he is." "Tip from who?" she asked. The detective didn't answer, but the second one leaned in. "Does the name Ryan Maddox mean anything to you?" Her stomach dropped. "I think he's stalking me," she whispered. "I saw him at the hospital after the shooting, and I've been getting these notes, threats. Last night I found—" She stopped herself. Should she hand over the letters? If she did, Elijah could get blamed for everything. If she didn't, they might not believe her. So she took a deep breath and said, "I found proof that Elijah was in contact with Jason, but he was trying to stop him." Both detectives stiffened. What kind of proof? She pulled out the letters and placed them on the desk. They read in silence for nearly 10 minutes. When they looked up, their expressions had changed. "You know this is serious, right?" one said. "If what you're saying is true, then Elijah knew about the shooting beforehand. That's obstruction, maybe conspiracy." "No," she snapped. "He didn't know the plan. He tried to stop him. Jason manipulated him. He threatened him." "How do you know that?" She pulled out her phone and opened the video file from the USB, the one of Elijah taking the gun. "Because someone sent me this." After viewing it, the detectives looked at each other and stood. "We need to keep this," one said. "We'll be in touch." But the way they avoided her eyes told her the truth. They didn't believe Elijah was innocent, and now neither did the world. By sunset, the story was breaking across local news sites. Student who was shot may have had secret ties to gunmen. Hero girl now tied to possible cover-up. Her photo was everywhere. Elijah's too. Even her mum saw it, and the look on her face said more than words could. "What else haven't you told me?" her mum asked. Carmen didn't answer. She couldn't. That night she got a new message. This time it was a video sent to her phone. No number, no contact, just a 30-second clip. It showed Elijah, fresh bandages, hospital gown, breathing heavy, sitting in a dark room. His mouth gagged, his hands tied behind a chair. Then Ryan Maddox stepped into frame. He crouched beside Elijah and looked directly into the camera. "You think you're a hero, Carmen?" he whispered. "Heroes die last." And the screen went black. He wasn't. The victim, but he wasn't the villain. Carmen stared at the video on her phone, her hands numb. Ryan Maddox had Elijah. That wasn't just a threat. That was a promise. He was alive, but for how long? She replayed the clip. Every frame. Elijah was gagged, breathing hard, his eyes swollen. But he wasn't just scared. There was something else. Guilt. He wasn't mouthing, "Help me." He was mouthing, "Don't trust him." But who, Ryan or someone else? She didn't go to school the next day. She didn't leave her room. Her mum kept knocking, offering food, begging her to talk. But Carmen was in another world, piecing together. Everything like a shattered mirror, the USB, the threats, the letters. Now the video, none of it made sense, unless Elijah had gotten involved willingly at some point, unless he was hiding something far bigger than she'd imagined. And what if Ryan wasn't acting alone? She opened the group chat that Elijah, Jason, and a few other boys had once shared for their science project last year. Dead. No new messages. Then she remembered the group had moved to a private Discord after that. Elijah once showed it to her briefly, something called The Hive. She reinstalled Discord and searched for the server. No luck. Then she remembered Elijah's hoodie. He had a patch stitched inside the lining. She ran to her closet, dug it out and felt under the hem. A slip of paper was sewn into the seam. The Hive, Security 1X, Shadow Cell Pass, kneel before fire. What the hell was this? She typed the address into her browser. It didn't work. But then she tried it as a private. Discord server code, boom, a server opened. Just 8 members, no names, only usernames. 01X, Shadow Cell, Omega Drop Blacklight, 0, Arak 9, Faded Venom, Ryan M13, Jason Midnight, N0S1 GNL. The chat history was sparse, mostly encrypted files and code strings. But one file caught her eye. Project Firecode, finalweek.txt. She clicked it. Firecode Protocol, Execution Week Final Prep. Jason deploys Stage 1, Diversion Fire Alarm. Elijah disables hallway cam feeds. N0 signal creates firewall bypass. Ryan retrieves locker gun per coded combo. Extraction, use East Maintenance Tunnel. Exit sealed after. All evidence cleared via. See Protocol V7. Any deviation, tunes and purge. Only 3 make it out. 3. Make it out. Carmen's throat tightened. They planned it together. Jason, Elijah, Ryan, and whoever no signal was, but only 3 were meant to survive. Jason died. Elijah got shot. Ryan disappeared. What happened wasn't random. It was a betrayal from inside. She copied the chat log and sent it to the detectives anonymously. She couldn't go public. Not yet. The media would spin it. The police would arrest Elijah before understanding the truth. She needed to find him herself, and the only person who might know more was someone who hadn't spoken to her in weeks. Someone who stopped returning her texts the moment her face hit the news. Maya Wallace. Maya and Carmen had been close before the shooting. They ran track together, studied in the same AP Chem class, even shared lockers in sophomore year. But Maya also dated Ryan Maddox. Briefly, Carmen still remembered the bruises Maya denied having, the sudden panic attacks, and the time she flinched when Ryan reached for her shoulder in the cafeteria. Back then, Maya said it was just anxiety. Now, Carmen wasn't so sure. She caught Maya just outside her apartment, jogging with headphones on. Maya froze the moment she saw Carmen. "I don't want to be part of this," Maya said, pulling out her earbuds. "Whatever it is, just leave me out of it." "He has Elijah," Carmen said. "I saw the video." Maya's face drained of color. "He sent you one too?" Carmen's heart skipped. "You got a video?" "Last week," Maya whispered. "He didn't show his face, just a voice. Said if I ever talked to anyone, I'd end up missing like the others." "Others?" Maya hesitated, then pulled out her phone. Her voice dropped. There were 4 others in the hive. 2 of them disappeared last year, Jax and Ben. One died in a so-called car accident, and the other just vanished. No one ever found him. Everyone thought they dropped out. What about the others? I think Noah Signal is still in school. He's a senior. Kid named Cameron Steele. Quiet, hacker type. Always wears those noise-cancelling headphones. Barely talks. Carmen was already pulling up Cameron's Instagram private, just 34 followers. His last post was a picture of a dark hallway with the caption, "Not everything meant to be hidden stays buried." She messaged him, "We need to talk, now. About Elijah, it's life or death." No reply until 2 hours later. A voice message popped up. "You don't know what you're doing. You're not part of this. But you were never supposed to be. Meet me at the old gym, midnight. Come alone." At 12:04 a.m., Carmen slipped through the back fence of the old gym building, abandoned after the renovation 3 years ago. It smelled like rust and rainwater. She kept her phone recording in her pocket. A single flashlight flicked on from the corner bleachers. A boy stepped out, skinny, pale, dark hoodie pulled low. "Cameron, you shouldn't have come," he said. "They're watching everyone." "I want to find Elijah." He laughed bitterly. "You want the truth?" None of them wanted to hurt people at first. It started as a protest. Then Jason changed. Ryan twisted everything. Then why didn't Elijah stop it? "He tried," Cameron said, stepping closer. "He told the school months ago. Filed an anonymous report. Gave names. But guess what?" He pulled out a folded letter from his pocket and handed it to her. It was a reply from the school board. Generic. Dismissive. No action taken. He begged them. Even offered evidence. They buried it. Jason knew. That's when he flipped. Carmen shook her head. "This isn't just about Jason. Ryan, he's running something deeper. He wants to punish anyone who stood in the way." Cameron nodded. "Elijah figured that out too late. He switched sides, got shot trying to save someone. You. So help me," Carmen said. "Tell me where he is." "I don't know where." "Ryan took him. But you can trace the video, the file, metadata." "I already did," Cameron said. "It came from St. Vincent's Church. Basement level. It's been closed for years." Carmen's eyes widened. "I'm going there." "You'll die," Cameron said. "Ryan's not working alone anymore. He's got a network. He calls it cleansing the system. Anyone who resists vanishes." "I'm not scared of him," she whispered. Cameron looked at her with a strange mix of pity and awe. "You should be." That night, she left a note for her mum, just in case. Then she packed a flashlight, a box cutter, and the only thing Elijah had ever given her, a compass necklace he said always pointed to true north. She didn't care about safety. She only cared about truth, and the truth was inside that church. The basement door was already unlocked. Carmen stood in front of St. Vincent's Church, its crumbling stone, base barely visible beneath creeping ivy and graffiti. The front gate creaked as she pushed it open. No lights, no cars, just silence, the kind that pressed down on your chest and made you question every decision that brought you here. She clutched the flashlight tighter and stepped in through the side entrance. The air inside smelled like damp wood and ash. The pews were rotting, sunlight barely piercing the cracked, stained glass windows. Everything was still, but Carmen didn't come here for the altar. She came for the basement. She moved slowly along the east wing wall, where Cameron said the stairwell was hidden. Her flashlight caught the edge of a door near the old confessional. It was unmarked. She pushed it open. The stairs beyond spiraled down into pitch black. As she descended, the air grew colder, thick with mildew. She could hear water dripping somewhere in the dark. At the bottom, her light landed on a rusted metal door. Across it, scrawled in red spray paint, "The system lies." She reached for the handle. It turned, already unlocked. Inside was a narrow corridor with concrete walls, lined with old filing cabinets and broken chairs. Wires hung loosely from the Ceiling and old security monitors blinked in static. It looked like some kind of makeshift surveillance center. Her breath caught when she saw the wall to the right. It was covered in photos, taped, pinned, scratched and drawn over in red ink, pictures of students, teachers, herself, Elijah, Jason, even Maya. Notes were scribbled over them: compromised, asset, failed, observer, target. Her photo had a red circle around her face, and one word scrawled beneath it: uncontrolled. Her stomach turned. This wasn't just about revenge, it was obsession. Footsteps soft, slow, behind her. She turned off her flashlight and ducked behind a metal cabinet. The footsteps paused. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway, hooded, tall, carrying something heavy in one hand. A dragging sound followed him. Carmen held her breath. He passed by, no more than a few feet from her. In his other hand he held a crowbar, but what he dragged behind him was worse, a blood-stained jacket. It was Elijah's. Her heart pounded. She waited until the man turned a corner, then slipped out, following at a distance. The hallway bent into an open room with monitors, generators, and a cage. A literal steel cage sat in the middle of the room, and inside, Elijah, she whispered. He was tied to a chair, gagged, bruised, but alive. The man who brought him in tossed the jacket to the floor and leaned in close, whispering something. Carmen stepped behind a shelf and crouched low, trying to listen. Said you'd protect her, but here she is, walking right into the trap. It was Ryan. His voice was calm, methodical, almost bored. I told them, Ryan continued. Told them you'd crack, that you'd beg to be the hero. You're not the hero, Elijah. You're the failure who almost got us all killed. Elijah struggled against the ropes, screaming into the gag. Ryan laughed. She'll be here soon. Then we end it. Both of you. Carmen moved fast. She ducked behind a generator, grabbed a length of rebar lying nearby, and crept toward the cage. Ryan stepped out of the room, checking something on his phone. Carmen took her chance. Elijah, she hissed, rushing over. It's me. His eyes widened in panic. He shook his head violently. Muffled noises erupted behind the gag. No, it's okay, she said, starting to cut the rope. Suddenly, a second voice came from behind her. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Carmen spun around, heart thudding. Cameron, but something was wrong. He wasn't scared. He wasn't hiding. He was calm, too calm. I warned you, he said. This wasn't your fight, but you made it yours. You lied to me, Carmen breathed. I told you the truth, he replied. Just not all of it. She stepped back. Your N0 signal, Cameron gave a slow nod. And you never left the hive, she whispered. You've been part of it all along. Cameron tilted his head. I built it. He walked toward the monitors and pressed a button. The screens lit up, showing live feeds from hallways, classrooms, even locker rooms in their school. Carmen's mouth went dry. You've been spying on all of us, she whispered. It was the only way to protect the mission, Cameron said. We were going to expose everyone, the teachers who turned a blind eye, the bullies, the abusers, the system that chews up kids like Elijah and spits them out. So your solution was a shooting? She snapped. No, Cameron said. That was Ryan. I never signed off on that part, but once Jason died, it was out of my hands. Carmen turned to Elijah. He was shaking his head, eyes pleading. Cameron noticed. You want to tell her? Cameron asked Elijah. Tell her what you did? Carmen looked at Elijah. What's he talking about? Elijah closed his eyes. Cameron answered for him. Elijah knew it was coming. The shooting. He didn't just warn the school. He delayed the alarm. So he could stop it himself. So he could be the hero. That's why Jason caught him and shot him. No, Carmen whispered. Elijah looked at her, tears rolling down his cheeks. Is it true? He nodded. Barely. I thought, if I could stop them, they'd listen. The school, the world. I didn't want anyone to die, but someone did, Cameron said coldly. Jason. and 3 others. Carmen felt the walls closing in. "So, what happens now?" she asked. "You kill us, keep the system clean?" Cameron stared at her for a long moment, then, "No, you're not the enemy." "But he is." He pointed to Ryan, who'd just returned. "You lied to me," Cameron said. "To him. You were supposed to disappear, not turn this into a manhunt." Ryan smirked. "You think I ever took orders from you?" He pulled a gun from his waistband. Carmen froze. Cameron didn't flinch. "You won't shoot me." "You sure?" "I built this place," Cameron said. "You shoot me, every server melts, every file goes live, to the FBI, the school board, the press." Ryan's smirk vanished. "So here's what's going to happen," Cameron said. "You're going to walk away, leave the cage open, and vanish for good." Ryan looked between Carmen, Elijah, and Cameron. He knew he was cornered. He turned the gun on Carmen for a second. "Guess the system wins," he muttered. Then he lowered it, dropped it on the floor, and walked out. 10 minutes later, the cage was open. Elijah was in Carmen's arms. Cameron stood off to the side, looking empty. "You're not calling the cops," he said. "None of you, or I'll release the failsafe." Carmen met his eyes. "And if we don't?" Cameron shrugged. "Your face is already everywhere. They'll believe whatever I feed them." Elijah spoke up for the first time. "You wanted to fight the system, Cameron." "So did I. But this wasn't the way." "No," Cameron said. "It was just the only one anyone listened to." And then he was gone. Carmen and Elijah emerged from the church just as the sky began to lighten. They didn't speak until they reached the sidewalk. He turned to her, eyes raw. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything, for lying, for dragging you into this." "You didn't drag me," she said. "I ran straight in." He smiled weakly. They walked home in silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because there was too much to feel. They turned me into a villain. The sunlight felt like judgment. Carmen sat on the hood of her mom's old Honda Civic, staring out at the street. Every passing car, every neighbor walking their dog or watering their lawn, felt like a pair of eyes watching her. It had been 3 days since she and Elijah escaped the basement of the abandoned church. 3 days since they had confronted Cameron and Ryan. 3 days of silence, no arrests, no news. No one came forward. The story never made the headlines, but Carmen knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long because the story was about to leak, and she wasn't the hero this time. That afternoon, it happened. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You should have kept quiet. N0 signal." Then the photos dropped, screenshots of her in the basement. Her photo circled in red. The word "uncontrolled" written underneath. A clip of her breaking into the cage to free Elijah. Then came the edited audio, Cameron's voice distorted, saying she knew about the plan the whole time. She was part of it. And just like that, Carmen Taylor became the villain. By sunset, local news stations were running the story. Breaking: Carmen Taylor linked to school shooting conspiracy. New footage: hero student or mastermind. Was the real shooter still in the building? At school, her locker was spray-painted with the words "killer." Her teachers stopped making eye contact. Students whispered in the hallways. Some of them recorded her on their phones and posted online. She played all of us. She wanted fame. Guess she was in on it. Even people who had once hugged her after the shooting looked away now. Her mom pulled her out of school by Friday. Not because Carmen asked, but because someone sent a brick through their front window with a note. "She won't make it to graduation." The police came, wrote a report, shrugged, told her mother to stay vigilant. That was it. No protection, no arrests, no justice. Elijah texted once, "I'm sorry. I'm going dark. Too dangerous." She never heard from him again. For the first time since the shooting, Carmen broke. She locked herself in her room, pulled the curtains, and didn't come out for 2 full days. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Messages, notifications, hate. She wanted to disappear. She thought about deleting her account, changing her name, moving away. But then she found the USB, the one she had yanked from Cameron's terminal before they left the church. She hadn't opened it until now, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The USB contained thousands of files, videos, audio recordings, documents, chat logs. It was everything. The full N0 signal archive, proof of surveillance at the school, evidence of teacher misconduct, admin cover, ups, false suspensions, harassment claims ignored, even bribes to expel certain undesirable students. There was a file named The Hive Structure Final. Inside was a list of usernames, real names, and school district IDs. The Hive had more than just students. It had teachers, police, a school board rep. One file contained a voice note from Ryan before the shooting. No one will care about the truth. They only care about spectacle, so we'll give them one. Make the system eat itself. Carmen stared at the files, heart racing. She had just found the power to burn the whole thing down. The next day, she went public. She didn't go to the press. She went straight to the people. She started a live stream. No flashy intro. No filters, just her face. Unflinching. My name is Carmen Taylor. You think I'm a liar, a traitor, a conspirator in the worst tragedy our school has ever seen. But you haven't heard the truth. You've only heard what they want you to hear. She paused, took a breath, continued. The people behind the shooting wanted to expose a broken system, but they became the very monsters they claimed to fight. I stopped them, but they framed me for it. And now, I'm showing you what they didn't. Want you to see? She uploaded the USB contents in real time, names, footage, voice memos, chat threads. She blurred innocent student identities, but kept the administrators, corrupt officials, and Hive members in full view. By midnight, it went viral. The reaction was electric. Outrage, shock, grief. But not at her. At them. Carmen's name trended on Twitter and TikTok for days. Carmen speaks. Expose the Hive. Truth over fear. Within 48 hours, the FBI opened a new investigation. Within a week, 3 school board members resigned. Within 2 weeks, Ryan's full identity was exposed, along with a video of him confessing to the planning of the shooting as part of a greater message. He was arrested trying to cross into Mexico. As for Cameron, he vanished again. Some said he was hiding overseas. Others believed he was still watching, underground, buried in code and wires. But Carmen didn't care. She had already won something, bigger than vengeance. She got her voice back. Weeks later, a journalist from the New York Times interviewed her. He asked, "You could have walked away. Let the world think whatever it wanted. Why risk coming forward?" She replied, "Because silence is how monsters survive. And I may not be a hero, but I will never be someone who just watches the world burn and does nothing." Graduation day came. Carmen walked across the stage in a plain black robe. No cords, no honors, just dignity. Some parents didn't clap, some stood up and cheered, and in the very back row she saw her mom, crying, smiling. A seat beside her was empty. Carmen didn't know if Elijah had come. She never heard from him again, but she whispered, "Anyway, thank you for surviving, for choosing right, for getting us out." That night, Carmen stood on her porch. Above her, the stars blinked quietly. No news, no hashtags, no chaos. Just space. She took a deep breath. Somewhere the world was still broken. Somewhere a new hive could rise again. But if it did, she'd be ready. The final move. The letter came on a rainy morning. No return address. Just her name. Carmen. Taylor written in bold, crooked letters, as if from someone in a rush, or someone who didn't care if she opened it or not. Inside was a single photograph, her, on the day of graduation, smiling in her cap and gown, but drawn in red ink across. Her chest were the words, "You only cut off the tail." The head is still watching. There was no signature, no clue, but Carmen didn't need one. It was Cameron, or someone still loyal to him. The hive wasn't gone. It had just gone quiet. It had been 3 months since Carmen went public with the USB files. 3 months since the truth cracked open the facade of her high school, the board, and the district itself. FBI raids, teacher suspensions, investigations, civil lawsuits. Some people called her a hero. Others said she had exposed too much. She didn't care anymore. But the more she watched the news, the more she realized something deeper was being buried. Yes, Ryan was caught. Yes, a few corrupt figures had been removed, but the structure remained. The hive hadn't just been a group of students and teachers. It had become a mindset, a system, one that would rebuild itself quietly unless someone made sure it never could. Carmen stood in front of her bathroom mirror and stared into her own eyes. She was barely 18, but she looked older now, a little harder, a little sharper. Still, somewhere inside, was the girl who had dived between bullets for someone else. That girl hadn't died. She had just evolved, and now she was ready to finish what she started. She contacted Elijah again. This time he answered. His voice was tired, hushed. "Carmen, I didn't think I'd ever hear from you again. I know, but I need your help." He hesitated, then said, "You still have the USB, don't you? I have something better now." The new files weren't just digital. They were paper, contracts, emails, personal correspondences. She'd received them through an anonymous drop at the old school auditorium, where it all began. Inside were records of offshore bank accounts, payments to consultants, and code names tied to real-world decisions that affected scholarships, suspensions, and even criminal records. The Hive was part of a nationwide network. Not just one school. They were connected to tech incubators, funding, labs, university grants. What started as a group of misfit justice warriors had become a dark web of influence and manipulation. Their reach could destroy lives with a single document. Carmen and Elijah built something new. They called it noise, not one innocent silenced ever. It wasn't a movement. It wasn't a revenge plot. It was a decentralized network that trained students across the country on how to identify silent corruption in their schools, build safe encryption systems for reporting abuse, and leak truth without getting destroyed. They weren't vigilantes. They were digital survivors, and Carmen, she became a ghost with a signal. She never showed her face, never spoke publicly again. But behind the scenes, she started winning battles. 4 months later, the school where it all started was shut down for extensive renovation. The district cited structural concerns, but everyone knew why. The system couldn't scrub itself clean. Not after Carmen made it impossible to forget. A new charter replaced it. A new principal, a new era, but whispers still followed. She lives in D.C. now. No, I heard she works for Homeland Security. They say she's gone completely off the grid. The rumors only made the legend grow. Then came the email, encrypted, untraceable. Short, Cameron is alive and he's planning something bigger. Attached was a photo of a whiteboard filled with symbols, school names, maps. Elijah sent it to Carmen with a single message. "You ready?" She didn't reply right away. She sat on the edge of her bed for a long time, just breathing. This life, the fight, the silence, the constant watching. It was consuming her. And yet, she knew she couldn't walk away now. Not when so many still lived under the shadow of lies. She replied, "I'm not ready, but I'm going anyway." 1 year later, a classroom in Chicago exploded in outrage after a whistleblower leaked evidence that a math teacher had faked test results to win state funding. The leak was posted by Noise, A school board president in Atlanta resigned after being linked to a secret database used to manipulate disciplinary actions based on family income. The leak was posted by Noise. A national award-winning prep school in Connecticut lost its top rank after proof emerged that its administration silenced reports of racism, sexual harassment, and misallocated scholarship funds. The leak was posted by Noise. They never took credit, never showed faces, but people started asking, who's behind? Noise? And the legend grew louder. Carmen never lived a normal life again. She never went to prom, never took senior portraits, never visited college campuses, but she had something no one else her age had, a mission, a meaning, a legacy. And on her 19th birthday, a box arrived at her door with no name. Inside was a single black envelope and a note, handwritten, "You ruined my masterpiece. But I'll give you credit. You're more dangerous than we thought. I'll see you when the world needs silence again." Kay, she folded the note and burned it. No fear, no tears, just one sentence whispered to the fire. "Then I'll be the noise you'll never silence." Epilogue. In a small classroom in Louisiana, a girl named Tasha stood up during lunch and said, "I know something's wrong." The counselor changed my report without asking. She said I was lying, but I have proof. She was afraid, but she opened. Her phone opened the app, tapped Noise. A single message came back, "You're not alone, let's fix this together." The end.